maybe not. I'm on a post office wall near you.
Yes, he is. He is. Okay, and you are?
My name is Bill.
Bill?
Last year.
Wonderful, Bill. Great. And the two of you are together, maybe?
That's correct.
Okay, good. And you are?
I'm Jerry.
Jerry?
Gabby.
Gabby? Jerry and Gabby. Okay.
Well, I got my license last year, but I became a realtor in February.
Okay. Ooh. Nicole, you're not the rookie. Gabby's got you. Okay, and you are?
I'm still working on the test.
Oh, soon, Gabby, you won't be the rookie. He'll be the rookie. Okay, and you are?
Peter Daniel.
Peter, how long have you been a realtor?
I think it was the year before electricity, 1986.
Oh no, you're fairly new. What is that? 40 years? 39 years?
There.
Okay. So we had somebody walk in. Tell me your name.
Laura.
Laura, and how long have you been a realtor, Laura?
Since September last year.
Okay. So, Barb, you, me, name again?
Peter.
Peter. You, me, and Peter. Dean. Old folks in the room. Old folks in the room. We're doing intros and how long you've been in real estate.
Is it my turn?
It is your turn.
Okay. Cameron Wilson, 12 years.
Okay. And Cameron can join us, experienced agents. So I'm glad to have you all here. They invite me out once a year. That's all they can stand me here. And our goal in this workshop is that it is a workshop, not a class. And so you all need to be committed for this next month that when we're done with a portion, you are now going to go and implement that portion and bring it back the next week so that by the end of a month, you guys are just honestly taking all your listings. My listing conversion percentage is 85%. So it's a little above average. I think average is like 60. And so I'm at 85%. I'd like all of you to do that and get yourself to 85% also. All right, so now we have the people who got stuck in traffic, I'm sure. You are who? Ivan, how long in real estate? A year. You are who?
My name's Will.
Will, how long in real estate?
4.5 years.
4.5 years. Tristan, 4.5. Kira? 4 months. Okay. All right. You're still not the rookie, just so you know. Okay. Gabby's holding that right now. And you are? Brianna, 1 year. Glad to have you here. So we'll be doing a workshop. And so are you all committed to do the work is my question. Yes? Okay, wonderful. That was the right answer. And the calendar of what we'll be doing each time is up here on the board so that you can make a note of that so you know what you're coming prepared for. So most people are visual learners, okay, in the world. Just most are visual learners. So my question to each of you, and for those who are new in real estate, you probably aren't going to raise your hand, and that's okay. How many of you have a visual listing presentation? Okay, 5. Okay, that is really, really normal to have like 5 in the room that have them. How many of you have yours just on your computer? And that's what you bring. Okay, I did that once. Well, I'm sure I did it more than once, but one time I brought it and they had no internet. Oh, yes. So that was the last time I brought my computer. So now I have just a manual, physical presentation. Okay. So, Barb, where did you get your presentation from? Oh, I like that. Thank you, Barb. It's working? Okay. Aren't you glad you're here? Okay. Tristan, where did you and Will get your presentation? From your team. Okay. Who else had their hand up? Dean, where did you get yours?
Fearless agent.
Pardon?
Fearless agent.
Oh.
Oh shoot. The name is Bob Luther. That's what he was doing.
Okay. Okay, wonderful. I remember Bob. Okay, and who else said they had one? I had one more, I think. Tell me, where'd you get yours?
Like 1,000 places, all combined into what I have now.
Wonderful. And I think that's probably what most people do is kind of they take the best of different places. Um, do you all have access to the hub? Okay. No, you don't have access to the hub. Okay. All right. Because I was going to say, I know we have one there. Does your market center have one that Gabby could just go in and we do have one? Okay. So, Gabby, you don't have one. You don't need to recreate one. We have one here at the market center that you're just going to need to put your picture on and your phone number and name and all of that. Okay. All right, good. Well, I want to tell you that your assignment, and I'll tell you this now, we'll say it one more time at the end. Your assignment for this week's class is that by the time you come back next Monday, you will have a personalized listing presentation. The visual, whatever yours is going to be, okay? And you know that we have Barbara, Dean, Cameron, Will, and Tristan all have a presentation. You're all willing to show them your presentation, right? Yes. So now you have 5 examples that you could just take your phone and take pictures and now go into the one in the market center and create your presentation. Okay. Next thing you have to create is I want you to create a cover sheet for your comparative market analysis. So that's where you're going to do the evaluation of the home. That's what you're going to leave behind with your people. So I need you to have a cover sheet for that. Okay. And then I want you to have your packet of listing paperwork. So let's see. Cameron, how many listings are you planning on taking this year? Oh, sorry, Cameron. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong person. I'm looking at Will.
6.
6. So how many packets do you have completed? 6 or more. That's exactly right. Now, I think if you're going to take 40 or 50 listings, the way they've been changing paperwork recently, I would say maybe don't have 40 or 50 prepared, but I try to always have 10 in my drawer, the paperwork. So all I have to do is grab it and put it into my white envelope. I used to use manila, now they're white. Okay, just an envelope. So I want that paperwork all done. I want to show you or tell you what I have in my paperwork. So if anybody wants to take notes on that, you can do that. The first sheet I have in my paperwork is my cancellation agreement. And they're presented in this order. My cancellation agreement simply says that, you can cancel if you don't like working with me, Barb. Okay? And you owe me nothing. The next thing I have in my presentation is the state's listing form. It's called the Exclusive Right to Sell Listing Agreement and Agency Disclosure. Okay, that form. It's law. Okay. Next one I have, truthfully, because I don't put my listings on the market the second I list it. If I list Barb's house, it doesn't go on the market till photos are done and we've got your house cleaned up, etc. So I do an addendum, and this is called the Addendum to the Exclusive Right to Sell Listing Agreement Agency, Cooperating Broker Compensation, and MLS Exclusion Form. It's a very long title. Okay? Very long title. Let me read it to you one more time in case anybody's writing a note. So it's the Addendum to the Exclusive Right to Sell Listing Agreement and Agency Disclosure, Cooperating Broker Compensation, and MLS Exclusion Form. And this form allows me to choose which date we're going to go on the market. Okay? Because otherwise, what does the MLS say? How much time do we have to get a house on the market when we list it? 4 days. Yep, 4 days. Well, it'll take me 4 days to get the photographer out there. It'll take Barb more than 4 days to get the house cleaned up the way I want it. So bottom line is you need this form virtually every time. Virtually every time. All right, my next addendum is called the Addendum to the Exclusive Right to Sell Listing Agreement and Agency Disclosure. Disclosure of affiliated businesses and vendor referrals. So you all have an in-house title. Do you have an in-house lender that we have marketing agreements with? Dean, do we have any of those? Okay, so you have to have this form. Okay, so that's the next form. The next one is the residential listing input form. All the data that goes in. Okay. The next one is the wire fraud alert disclosure. Okay. Wire fraud alert disclosure. It is well, and they'll see that in my presentation next week. And I still do every one of them. And it has proven to be successful because I've had somebody call and say, somebody just tried to prank me, scam me. So it is successful. The multiple offer disclosure form. Right now, 30% of my houses are getting multiple offers. So I only use this form 30% of the time in the end, but I use it to present and explain it to everybody every time. Okay. Next one is the seller's notice of to buyers of multiple offers. So if indeed I have multiple offers, then this form is necessary. So I didn't used to have them fill this one out ahead of time, but then I had a time where a client was out of town, didn't have internet, and couldn't get it signed in time to give them the multiple offer notice. So now we just do it right up front. Okay, so you can see I learned from my mistakes. Next one is the lead-based paint disclosure. It's 1976 or 78. Which is it? 78 or older. I've got to have that one done. Next one is my Real Advantage Real Advantage title, so that my title company can get the payoff. And the last one I have is my promise script, and I sign my promise and they sign my promise. So those are the forms that you need to package up, and my belief is have 10 of them available in your drawer, paper clip. So all you got to do is pull one out, stick it in an envelope, and then you're good to go. Okay, so that's what I expect each of you to come back with next Monday. Anybody not be able to do that? Good. Everybody's going to come back. So we're going to look at those presentations. So if you get a chance, come in like 10 minutes early next week so we can kind of wander around, and we'll just leave our packets on the table, and then we can wander and kind of look at everybody's. And, you know, as Cameron said, get some good ideas and make it a compilation so you could fine tune it even after next week. But I expect you to have one next week. Okay? All right. So I want to talk to you. Everybody's got a copy of this, so it doesn't turn. Let's just turn it around. Hi. Okay. I want to talk to you today because next week I'm going to give my actual presentation. So today I want to talk about the structure of a listing presentation. Okay. So I'm going to talk to you about a safe island. I'm going to talk to you about assumptive closes. Tie downs. Trial close. Okay. And we're going to talk about the order. Let's talk about the order first. So I've been doing this for This month, 54 years. And I've taught this class lots and lots of times in lots of different market centers. And I've had people virtually every time after I do the presentation next week who will say to me, I do mine exactly like you do yours, but I'm not getting the results. And numerous times I've said to those agents, stay behind and I clear the classroom when we're done. And I say, okay, give me your presentation. And honestly, most of the time, their presentation is very similar to mine, but they make one mistake that seems to be the recurring mistake, and that is the order. So what is the number one thing a seller wants to know from us when we get there to talk about selling their house? What's the number one thing they want to know? How much they're going to get. Not even what they're going to charge. How much they're going to get. They may say it in, I want to know the price, but it's always about how much am I going to get. All right. So because of that, and because they often lead the conversation, which you're going to learn next week how to become the leader of the listing, meaning you're going to lead them through the presentation. They are not going to lead you. But if you do it that way, the way that I do it, then you're not going to run into this problem. So if I was presenting to Will and the first thing Will said to me was, yeah, but before we get started, how much is a house worth? I'm going to say, Will, that's so important that I've saved it for last. Okay? And it's really, really important to understand why you do that. Because if Will thought his house was worth $600,000, okay? And I'm coming in and saying it's worth $625. What happens to Will the minute I say that number is he has an out-of-body experience. So it goes like this. Oh my gosh, if I could get $625, I could pay off the car. Or maybe we could get a more expensive home. Maybe the interest rates don't matter so much. We could just put more money down. They start having this internal conversation about the extra money that they weren't planning on that they're going to get. Okay? And they stop listening to you. They don't hear one word you say. And you don't know they're having this out-of-body experience. Now, if Will thought he was going to get $600,000 for his house, and he's only going to get $575,000, amazing things happen. He has yet another out-of-body experience. And now it's like, oh, if I only get $575,000, there's no way I can afford to do this. And I promised my dad I'd pay him that money that I owed for college, and I'm not going to be able to do that. The credit card stuff is like 18% right now. And there's this whole conversation that's going on in Will's head that he never hears a word I'm saying. So to me, the most important thing about maybe what I do differently that maybe gets me that 85% conversion rate is the order in which I do the presentation. And you'll see that next week. But that's going to be huge. Okay? All right. So let's talk about a safe island. How many of you have ever had surgery? Okay. So for those of you who had surgery, you remember how the doctor said to you, Peter, if you'll check in about 7 o'clock to the hospital, they'll take your stuff, take your information, and then they're going to put you in that, cute air-conditioned gown and take you down to anesthesiology. I'm actually going to meet you there at about 7:45, and you'll get an anesthetic, kind of put you into a relaxed state. Then you and I will meet in the operating room. The surgery is going to take about 25 minutes. After that's done, we're going to take you into recovery, and I'd like you to plan on about 2 to 3 hours in recovery. So really, if you had somebody coming to pick you up at about noon that day, that would be the right pickup time. Any questions?
No.
Okay. So how many of you remember that from your surgery? You had that conversation. Okay. The doctor just gave you a safe island. Now, why did he do that? What are the reasons? And there are multiple reasons. Shout them out.
Reduce fear.
Reduces the fear. Yeah, anxiety builds, and in real estate, it's the same thing. They expect the agent's going to push them into a corner, make them do something they don't want to do. So there's some anxiety when dealing with the biggest investment of their life. Okay, and in addition to solving fear and anxiety, what else does it do? Go ahead, Peter.
To know you're a professional and you set the expectation.
Yes, you're leading them. You're not following them. You're not responding. You're leading. Anybody wanting to sell or buy a house, they've got 13,000 agents that they can choose from. They are looking for an agent who is going to lead them to their goals. Not for a wishy-washy person. They're looking for someone who's going to lead them to their goals. And so this starts that path of being the leader in this conversation. Okay? Any other reasons why we would do this? Mainly because when Will says about price, I've said, remember, Will, we're going to cover price. Okay? Nicole. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And that falls back onto that. They're looking for a realtor who has a plan, who's a leader. Not somebody who's flying by the seat of their pants, but who has a plan. Okay? So let's do the Safe Island in the real estate part of it, and we can discuss that. So Peter, can I tell you the process I'm hoping we can follow this evening?
Please.
Wonderful. So first I'd like to sit down with you and just ask you a lot of questions. I need to find out about your goals, your dreams, your timeline, what's going to be important to you. You okay with that?
Yes.
Wonderful. And then you're going to show me the house as though I were a buyer. And I want you to point out all your favorite parts of the house. And I want you to share with me any updates that you've made to the house. Okay? Then I'm excited to come back here to the kitchen table and share with you the marketing plan that I've designed to get your home sold. And at that point, if we can agree on that, then we'll go over pricing. And if we can agree on pricing, we'll get the ball rolling. How does that sound?
Great.
Okay? Now they know the plan. Now they know when everything's going to happen. And it was really important that we mentioned pricing because that's his number one worry. But it's actually number 4 in the hit parade. Okay? 4 out of 5 is that. So that's the Safe Island. Okay? Next, I want to talk to you about assumptive closes. So most people's favorite word is no. Did you all know that? I mean, it really is. Most often a no. And so we're not going to get anywhere with these people that we're sitting in front of who we maybe have never met before. Maybe they weren't referred. Maybe they're an absolute stranger meeting another stranger. I need them to feel comfortable. So one of the ways I make them feel comfortable is assumptive closes. The other way that I make them feel comfortable is by trying to mirror and match the people. Okay? So if I can have, and this is not, somebody said to me once, well, I feel like you're manipulating them. I am so not manipulating them. I am not attached to their end result and what they decide. I am attached to their being comfortable enough to make a decision. Because if they can't get comfortable enough with the biggest investment of their life, they're going to be frozen in place. Whether that place is where they should stay or not, that's what will happen. So assumptive closes are where they agree to do something for me. So an assumptive close is where they agree to do something for me. Who can think of some examples of what you might do assumptive closes around? Pardon? Cleaning. If they agree to get the stuff boxed up and cleaned up for you. Absolutely. That's a great one. another one. There are lots of them. Do they have a key for me? I'm going to have to put it in the key box. Do they have a key for me? Or would they get a copy made of the key? Okay. Would they be willing to meet the photographer for the photo shoot? Now, if not, we use the key box, but that's an assumptive close. Would they be willing to do that? Once I get it on the MLS, Peter, would you be willing, if I sent it to you, to proof it to make sure I didn't have any fat fingers that day and type in the wrong number?
That'd be great.
Okay, I would love that. Thank you so much. Just having him check on that. The grand opening, Dean, we would plan for the weekend after Easter. So that would be the, 26th, I think, that weekend. Could you all be gone that weekend? Could you, like, after all this hard work, could you, like, just go camping or go down to see Arches? The weather's perfect down there for that. Okay. Would they leave their house so I can get in and show it as often as possible through that weekend? Why would I do that, by the way? Anybody know? Peter.
More access.
More access. What else? If Dean's got kids, or if Dean has dogs, or if Dean has both, how easy is it for them to get up and have to leave, then come home, get everybody settled, only to get another call and have to get up and go again? It's a lot of stress. And mostly in my questions, and you'll see that next week, it is often reducing stress is part of what sellers want. Nobody wants a really stressful, dramatic kind of listing. Just telling you now, nobody. So that reduces the stress, okay? Allows me to maybe do more than one open houses, allows us, how many people come your first weekend? Isn't that your biggest weekend of the listing? So let's just make it easy for them and for us and for the sellers, okay? So that's an assumptive close. Any other assumptive closes that you can think of? There are lots more. You'll see some next week, but you get the idea. Nicole? Yeah, if they committed to fix something, absolutely. If we're walking through the house and there's something that needs to be fixed, absolutely. That's another assumptive close, okay? All right, let's talk about what tie downs are. Tie downs are simply something that they agree with me about. So, example to that might be, Peter, would it be safe to say that you want me to leave no stone unturned when it comes to where I market your house?
Absolutely.
Okay. Tie down. Okay. Do you want me to do this? Do you want me to do that? I think I should do this. What do you think? Yes. Anything they agree with you on. Okay. So there's a magic number I want you to watch. So assumptive closes, the magic number is 5. Okay. Tie downs 10 or more. So years ago, when I moved to Salt Lake in October of 79, I have been a realtor down in Price, came up here, had to have a new listing presentation, was a different company. And so I remember sitting on a kitchen chair in my bathroom in front of the mirror, giving my presentation to myself. Now, so for those of you who are way younger than me, there were no cell phones, there were no recording devices. I could have done a cassette recording. It's a little machine about this big, it has spools, yeah. So I just watched myself do my presentation in front of the mirror. By the way, I'm going to recommend in 2 weeks that you're recording yourself, but for now, I was doing that. Well, when I watched myself in the mirror, the funniest thing is I realized I was Italian. And I knew this because of my hands. So my hands were like all over. So I'm in the mirror just watching my hands as they're going all over the place. And And I called my mom and said, it's okay. I know I'm adopted. Tell me about it. And she said, you're not. So I'm not really Italian, but I thought I was. So I needed to find a way. Now, by the way, everybody has quirky things. Okay, you giggle at me, but you might do the push up the glass all the time. And Gabby might do the twisting of her hair all the time. We all have little things that we do that we don't know we do. They might be things like saying to every comment the seller makes, great. Great. That's great. We don't know we're doing it, guys. Okay, so the recording of it will help you decipher if you have any of those funny little things that we all seem to have. So for me, it was out of control hands that were actually distracting. I mean, they were distracting to me. So I'm left-handed. So I don't have a pen here, but I'm left-handed. Not thank you. So I always have a pen in my left hand, both for writing things down and because often I say to people, here, if I gave you my magic wand and I shake the pen at them so they can take that, you'll see that next week. But I always have a pen in my left hand. So really, I needed to give my right hand a job. And so I gave my right hand a job, and my right hand sits on my lap at the kitchen table, under the table. So the sellers never see it. And every time I do an assumptive close, a finger comes out. It's like magic. Okay? In my lap, under the table, no one knows. The minute I hit 5, I don't have to go any farther. I could actually close and often do at that moment. 5 is a magic number. Now, you may not, thank you, you may not have the problem I had of crazy hands, okay? But you may also want to take your, if you're right-handed, maybe take your left hand and put in a fist and put it on your lap and count assumptive closes, okay? Then you've got the listing. Now, we do it this way because everybody's favorite word is what? No. Is that your favorite word? No. I'm looking at the little girl in the back. No. Is that your favorite word? No, that's not her favorite word. Okay. My goal is through this presentation to have them say yes over and over and over again. And if they say yes over and over and over again, then the listing is mine. And you'll see how easily that happens next week. Okay. So it is critically important that you do how many assumptive closes? 5. 5 or more. 5 or more. And how many tie downs? As many as you can get. Over and over and over. Yes, 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 yes. So I'll tell you the other reason you want to do this. So the least favorite way for an adult to be taught is to be talked at. Many agents go on a presentation and they just talk at that person and just talk at them. So there's no relationship built in talking at somebody. So if you're asking questions, which you're required to do in order to get yeses, then what's happening is you're having a conversation, which is entirely different than talking at somebody. Okay? You have a look on your face in the middle of the last row, like, I don't know about that. Tell me what you're thinking. Oh, okay, okay. So I'm just boring her to death. But other than that, we're good, right? Okay, all right. So there are really good reasons to be doing these. These are the reasons I think that my numbers are so high. These are the reasons that they're just, they just want to. Yes.
I want you to handle my objection because you know I like it.
Okay, but that does, 1 second, because you chose to come late. Uh-huh. If you'll notice on the bottom, we are doing objections one of the weeks. Oh, look, it's right there on the 21st. Can you hold it till then? Oh, okay, then give me your objection.
If I have something closes like when salesmen do that to me and I detect it, it annoys me because it feels artificial.
Yeah.
Handle my objection, please.
Okay, so the story you're telling yourself between your two ears is a fairy tale. And I can say that because I've done this thousands of times. You've maybe happened to have somebody do this to you a half a dozen times. It bothers you personally. So try harder to be in relationship with your people, and then it doesn't feel that way at all. My people, as we're talking through the questions, understand that we're going to be a team and that it's important that we both do our jobs on the team. So when I'm starting to do my presentation, which is after we've had this team conversation and after we've seen your house, right, Peter?
Yes.
Yeah. By then, they understand they're part of the team, therefore they expect to be doing something. Actually, most sellers would like to do something because it helps them retain some amount of control over the sale of their house. So I think it's a fairy tale that you've personally experienced, and I'm certain you have experienced it, but I'm betting you've experienced it a handful of times, and I have done this thousands of times, and it works every time. So maybe close the fairy tale and just try it my way. Okay? All right. Okay, back to this. Okay. So, trial close. So I want to tell you the trial close that I do. So Peter and I have asked the questions. Peter has shown me the home. Peter, we've gone through my marketing. So I'm always at this point now going to say, so Peter, how does that sound so far?
Great.
Great. So if we can agree on price, are you ready to get the ball rolling?
Not yet.
Tell me why not.
I've got other interviews coming up.
Oh, good. Who else are you interviewing with, Peter?
The rock star at Century 21.
Okay.
The rock star that has a degree in brain surgery at Coldwell Banker.
Okay.
And the rest, after listening to you, I'd probably just discount them right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, probably you've had so much fun in this presentation with me that you're just dying to do this over and over again.
Not really.
Right. So what is it that you're hoping either of the two other rock stars are going to bring to the table that we haven't talked about, Peter?
I don't know, something better. There's something that catches me.
Good. So on a scale of 1 to 10, you promised to be honest with me and I with you. What things would take it to that surprise and delighted factor?
If this thing can go as smooth as physically possible, because 20 years ago I had a very rough ride on one of these, and I don't want to ever visit that again.
So if I could give you in writing a guarantee that if at any time you were not delighted with me, you could let me go and owe me nothing?
You would do that.
I will do that in writing. I brought it with me. I do that with everyone in writing.
That's impressive. Yes.
So why don't we go ahead and agree on price and we get the ball rolling?
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. So we would, well, that's okay. We would not have ever had that objection had he gone through the process. If he had that objection, it would have happened before we ever got up from the table. Or, before we even went through the marketing plan. We would have seen the house, we would come back, and he would already be on board and everything planned out. So I wouldn't get that objection at the end. That's how important what I'm teaching you is and how important the order of it is. Now, that being said, you're going to get objections. I went and saw somebody recently who called me, and he's a neighbor, not one I know well. We don't have any kind of relationship at all. And I got to his house early in the morning, and he said to me before I even got my butt in the chair, so I'm only going to list with you to do it 5%. And I said, well, I work for 3. And so if you're looking for me to take a discount, then there's no point in my sitting down. And if you're thinking you're going to ask the buyer's agents to take a discount, then let me explain to you why I think that's not a good idea. And so we did, and we were fine, and I got to sit down, and we listed the house, and all is well. But I mean, before my butt hit the chair, he said that, okay? I also just took 2 listings a week ago. This was a developer. I've done 2 houses of new construction in Pleasant Grove for them. Nova Lee's son lives in one of them. I have done 8 units for them in South Salt Lake, brand new construction. Well, they have a new construction out in Magna that I talked to him about a year ago. They'd called me and said, come and look at this and see what you think. And his partner is the actual builder, and he wanted to use his friend. And so my client said, he wants to use his friend, so we're going to give that a try. And I said, okay, well, call me if you need me. So he called me because they need me. It's been 8 months. They've sold 1. And so I sat down with them, and I didn't bring anything because these guys know me. But I sat down with them, and I said to the builder, who had not wanted me, because I am hard-nosed, and I get that, and I like to tell the truth, and he would like to live in a fantasy land, and I understand that. But anyways, I said to him, so tell me, Mark, why you think these units have not sold. And he said, well, they're twin homes and not single family. I said, okay, what else? And he said, well, the location. I said, the location's pretty good. Why else? And he said, well, maybe the pricing. I said, okay, anything else? He said, no. And I said, okay, you're 2 for 3. So let's talk about those 2 things. I said, it is a twin home. The truth is, nobody searches by twin. Have any of you ever searched for a twin home? Be ashamed of yourself. One. Nobody does. Okay? So I said, that's our problem. Now, I list a fair number of twin homes. I list them as single family, and in the comments I write, this is a twin style construction. So I think the MLS should do away with twin. I think they're doing every seller an absolute disservice who owns a twin, because nobody searches for twins. I'm not trying to hide the fact that it is one, but I want to be found in a search. So I said to him, you must promise me you are not going to tell your previous agent that I'm doing it not as a twin, because he's going to report me. And Mark said, well, I understand the MLS monitors this. And I said, no, they only respond to complaints. So my client says to Mark, you will promise not to say a thing to that agent. Okay? And the other I said is price, and you're absolutely right. You're higher than you need to be, and you need to reduce them down. So we've done reductions, and hopefully our grand opening is this weekend. So we'll hope that we do that. But so that one I didn't even make a presentation, but I've sold for my client his own personal home, and 12 homes. So on that one, I don't think I need to bring a presentation. So you can see that there could be some of that occurs. But how you respond, and I came about this because of your objection, you are going to get them sometimes at different times. But truthfully, the one that Peter gave me, you'll see next week. And Peter, if you'll come and sit up here, you can be my seller next week and play that role. And Barbie can come and be his wife, okay? Just for the day. It's a short thing. But anyways, then you can see, would you have felt like you needed to say that? And if you feel like you need to say that next week, then you'll say that. But I think you'll find you won't. Okay? I think you will find you won't. Okay. So the trial close is always after my marketing plan, but before price. The reason I do that is because once I didn't. And so the person said to me, well, no, we're not sure we're ready yet. And I said, what is it you're not sure about? Well, we're just not sure. And I started over in my presentation and thought, I'll just do it a second time and do it better. So ultimately what it was that day was they didn't believe in open houses. But they didn't say that when we talked about open houses, but they said it when we came back. And so I realized that I thought it was about price. It wasn't about price. It was about open houses. So I have to do a trial close just to make sure that we're good with all that we have planned and isolate the pricing as the only possible reason they would not be doing the paperwork with me today. Okay? So if I do the trial close there, then I've isolated it. Does that make sense? Yes.
Would you mind giving another example of a trial close? Like another question?
It's always my same question, to be honest. So does that sound like the marketing plan you were hoping to see to get your home sold? You say, okay, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Then if we can agree on price, are you ready to get the ball rolling? Yeah, okay. Now, I know that I always say exactly that because I just listed a house in Pleasant Grove. And she's the daughter of a client whose house I sold. And it said, my dad said I should call you about getting the ball rolling. I kid you not. I called the dad and said, Dad, thank you for sending me Nicole. And I just had to giggle because you remember that I said, get the ball rolling. He said, Lee, I remember everything you said. And they do. They had met me in Linden 8 years before at an open house. Walked out of that open house unknown to me and said, if we ever sell a house, we're going to use her. That was just at an open house. So you want to come to my open house class at the end of the month. But anyways, they then built a house in Pleasant Grove and 8 years later called me and listed their house. But it's always that question. It's said exactly the same way.
Same for the final close too, like after you discuss price, price point, say the same thing. Is there anything else that would be
No, that one I always say, is there any reason we shouldn't go ahead and proceed or get started? Because they can say no to that. And they like saying no.
and then after
Well, no, by then we've covered objections. Yeah. The only objection that could come in at that point is when I'm going through the paperwork and they see what I'm going to charge. Then they could object to the charges. I get that maybe twice a year. Not often.
so you can price, then commissions, then dash.
Yeah, commission doesn't come about until we're doing the paperwork. And you'll see that also the following week. Yep. Okay. All right. So questions on these? You have 10 minutes to kill. Okay. Yes, Bill.
If the commission comes up before your presentation's done, you just tell them, well, let's get to that. I want to really lay out for you what I do for you.
Yeah, my favorite way to say it is simply commissions are negotiable according to law. So let's sit down and meet and see if we want to work together.
But I'm talking about in the middle of your presentation. You just got to put them on hold, finish your presentation.
Yeah,
present.
yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah, or I'll just say commissions are negotiable. So let's go ahead and cover this and see if I'm offering what you want. Okay, in the back.
On the price, say, we can agree on price. What, for you personally, I guess, my question is, what is that range of yeah, we're willing to work on the price together and they're ridiculous.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I don't go for ridiculous, but trying to determine what is not ridiculous. Part of that really depends on their motivation. If they're looking to sell, but if they don't sell, it's fine, they'll stay there. Then my range is going to be very tight. If they're getting transferred, no matter what happens, they will get to motivation very quickly. And so then my range might be a little bit bigger than that, but it's not a real big range. And if you want, I'll bring next week a CMA, and I'll show you how I present that. So they choose the price. Matter of fact, on my paperwork, everything is filled out with the exception on the MLS. The price is not, and I make them fill that out, write those numbers in. And I hope that when you go on your presentations, your paperwork is always filled out. Because if I'm going out to take a listing, no one wants to sit there for 45 minutes while you fill out paperwork. So you get your paperwork done before you get there and act like you're going to take a listing, because that's what we're going to do. Not I'm going to go on listing appointment. Okay? You're going to go take a listing. It's a mindset difference. Yes.
So I think the biggest like mentality I see when I'm getting listing presentations is if I say a sales price, especially for first time sellers, if I'm getting a price point, they're already in their mind about the net of that price, not about concessions, not about title, not about the potential closing cost concessions. Right. Think about that. And so how do you how do you get around that mindset with them if you're waiting to the end to do that sheet? That makes sense. They're already thinking like, oh,
yeah.
That was like this.
Yeah. So because we did a trial close, so now we're only focusing on price. We do the CMA. If at that time they say, well, like Peter wanted, Will wanted 600,000 or 600,000. The out of body. I might say, let's go ahead and do a net sheet. Let's see where that leaves you. And I do the net sheet on the inside cover of my CMA. So it stays with them. And I do one while I'm sitting there. And I do it that way because I want to make sure that if they have like solar, and I didn't know they had solar, I got to know if there's a bill on that. I mean, we've run into in the last month, one person owed 30,000, one person owed 70,000 on their solar systems. They couldn't sell their houses. That totally put them right out. So I'm happy to do the net sheet there. Yeah, at that point. I just need to clear the plate so that they are a raving fan of everything I'm going to do for them. And pricing is not something I get to choose, nor is it something you as the seller get to choose. It's the buyer that's going to get to choose. But let's look and see what the buyers have been choosing. Okay? And we'll go through. I'll bring a CMA so you can see how I do that next week, because it's pretty easy. It's self-discovery is what it is, and allowing them to self-discover. And honestly, they come up with the right answer when you let them self-discover.
What other tricks have you found that kind of keep people in the present throughout those presentations rather than kind of having that, like you say, that out of body where they're kind of start wandering?
Yeah. So because I'm having conversation the whole time, because they're expecting I'm going to ask them another question, they're very involved. Yeah, they're stuck with me. And so it's not a matter of they're having that. But where they could have the out of body is when we get to price. So again, it's real important that we cover everything else first. Separate it and get the green light to go on that. Now do price. Because if we're going to have an out of body, here is where it's going to happen.
I experienced one just a couple of days ago. That reason I asked is because I had one of the video during the part where I was explaining my marketing. That's when you can see their eyes glaze over. They kind of start thinking of something else.
So my first question to you would be, ask yourself honestly, and never having been in your presentation, I can't answer this. Were you talking at them? Were you getting yeses every
Every
minute or two?
consultation is like question based and consultation, and I think my marketing seems like it's a lot more just like explain.
Okay, so now you need to change that.
Yeah, I gotta figure out how to
Yes,
what kind of questions to ask during this.
yes. So when we go through the presentation next week, I'll make sure I hit on some of those so that you can know to do that. Because that's what will happen is if they get glazed over, and they get glazed over when they're not participating. When they are engaged and participating, they don't have time to get glazed over. They're expecting another question from me. Okay, so they've got to pay attention. Okay, so yes, I think we just need to add some questions, some assumptive closes and tie downs to your marketing plan. And then I think you will not have that problem. Now, occasionally somebody will say, well, yeah, but what is the price? And I go, yeah, I told you that's the most important thing. I'm saving it for last. And they're like, okay. But really, that doesn't happen. It just doesn't. If you're doing the talking with them. Yes.
So when you go to take a listing, how long does it take to do your presentation typically?
Paperwork signed and everything, I'm usually out of there in an hour and 15 minutes.
So like, are you talking about like going door knocking and stuff like, yeah, I'll sell my house, then giving them that packet, or you're talking about like actually setting up a meeting in the office after you've talked?
So I'm going to go to their house, Nicole. Whether I got them door knocking or I cold called them or they were referred from a friend or they're a past client, doesn't matter. I'm always going to have a scheduled appointment with them. So if you were door knocking as your illustration, Nicole, I would say, oh my gosh, you're thinking about selling. So where are you going to go? When are you thinking about doing it? I mean, I'm going to start just asking some questions. And I go, okay, well, while I'm here, why don't you show me through the house? And then when I get back to my office, let me do a market evaluation. Let's find out what you can sell your house for. That'll help you in your decision making of whether you want to move, won't it? And then I will make an appointment to go back on a business appointment. Okay. Want to address Peter's objection earlier. I did go on an appointment. This was probably 2 years ago. Went on an appointment and I was the third agent to go to see them, the third and the last. And I knew that they'd had the other two, the wife had told me. So I got to the house and I had talked to the wife. And so as always, if I've talked to Gabby, then I'm going to turn around and fill you in on what we talked about so that we're all starting on the same page. So I'm talking to the husband and I said, I understand I am the third person to come and visit you and talk to you about selling your house. And he said, yeah. I said, that's got to be hard. And he said, well, it's not been so bad. And I said, oh, take a gun and shoot me and put me out of my misery. It's horrible to sit here and listen. And he went, well, it really is. So he finally fessed up. And I said, then let's just talk about the things you have questions about. Because I've got a marketing plan. I'm happy to go through all of it. But I really just want to hit on the things that you feel like you have questions on. And that's all we did. And then I told them my game plan, what I had planned. And I said, should we just go ahead and get started? Because 4 would be like suicide. He's like, yeah.
Did you call the other 2 for me?
I did.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and one of them even sent if I called and let the other agents know, and yes, I did. I always do that as a courtesy. And funny thing is, well, they do, and they know that they went against me, and they know I'm good. So in that regard, I have a good reputation. I have a good reputation of protecting other agents. I mean, if you have somebody come into one of my open houses, as soon as they leave, I'm on the phone going, hey, Will, just want to let you know, Bob and Carol, your clients, Bob and Carol, they just came through my open house. They seem to like it. Do me a favor, give them a call. Okay? My clients will be gone all weekend. Show it to them. Yeah, I'm always, if one of you guys calls and says, I can't be at the open house, Gabby says, can I send my clients? Absolutely. Give me their first names. I will. When they come in, I go, oh my gosh, Gabby told me you were coming. This is so great. Always will do that. Always will do that. My funniest one was probably 35 years ago. I'm making a call to Claire McHugh, who is, by the way, dead. But Claire called me and said, yeah, no, she died. She was a lot older than me. Anyways, I called Claire and I said, Claire, and I'm sitting at the kitchen table with the clients. So I'm calling Claire and saying, Claire, just wanted to let you know, Bob and Carol are listing their house with me, and we wanted to give you a first chance to bring a buyer. So we should have it on the market in about 2 weeks. We'd love to share the commission with you. So if you've got a buyer, please find and bring it. And she's like, you're there, aren't you? I said, I am. And she went, good job, Lee. Now, like 2 months later, I'm at an open house and some people came in and their agent was Claire McHugh and Claire was out of town and they wanted the house. Now, this is so many years ago. And when they told me that, I said, okay, let's write the offer. I wrote the offer, Claire's name on it. Today I couldn't do that. Back then, our rules didn't require me to not be able to do that. So I wrote the offer, got it accepted, left Claire a message, said, call me, I've got great news for you when you get back in town. She called me up and I said, you sold a house. People came into my open house, Bob and Carol, they bought the house. I'll send you the paperwork, I'll fax it over to you. Okay? So have that kind of relationship. I'm going to do multiple deals with realtors. So my relationship with them is really, really important. But I will make those calls. Okay? All right. Seemed like I was going to tell you one other.
Can you say what you're saying on the call?
Can I say what I said?
Tell me what you're saying, like what you're saying in this call to other agents.
Well,
I totally destroyed you.
No. I would call and say, hey, JP, this is Lee. I wanted to let you know that Jamie and Scott ended up listing their house with me. They were really impressed with you, but I think the old grandma got them. Yeah, they can't be my age, so there we go. You can't say that, so you'll have to think of something else. Yeah. But the tone should be the same. That's exactly right. I'm not calling to gloat. I'm calling to let them know that they don't have to keep trying to call these people and make it, because my clients want a stress-free kind of situation. But anyways, on the agents where I was a third, one of the ladies sent an email to my client saying, just so I can be better, could you tell me why you chose Lee instead of me? I have no problem with that. And the client responded back and they said, well, she had a really defined plan of action that we really, really liked. And she said, and she's kind of like my grandmother. I just knew she was going to take care of me. That's really what it said. And my client sent me a copy of it, so I knew that that had happened. I have no problem with that because I'm one of those people that if I don't get the listing, I will call the seller and say, I understand, congratulations on or you listed your home with Peter. Just wanted to ask you, was there anything or what is the thing, not anything, what is the thing that I could do so the next time with my next clients, I'm doing a better job? And I remember one time they said, well, you didn't offer home warranty. It was a 1-year-old home. But I didn't talk about home warranties. I made a judgment that I wouldn't talk about them because it was a 1-year-old home. That was a stupid mistake on my part because it was an ERA agent. And if the ERA agent didn't get it signed with a home warranty, the ERA agent was penalized to do that. They don't do that anymore, but they used to. So I should have known. And that was, again, a mistake on my part. So I try not to repeat my mistakes. Once is always enough for me. Okay. All right. Well, we are 5 minutes over. I will look forward to seeing you next week where we will do the actual listing presentation with Peter and Barbara as our sellers. And you will come to class on the 14th with your paperwork packets done. I want to at least see one packet and a visual listing presentation sitting on the table. Come a few minutes early so we can wander around and view each other's. Okay? Cool. Thank you.